Picture this, you're a photographer out at a new location. You arrive and already the weather appears to be a challenge. Suddenly, it's not just about capturing whatever you can find, it's about battling imposter syndrome, proving to yourself that you have what it takes. Join me for one of my toughest shoots yet, where the elements will push me to the limits of my patience.
Hello, welcome back to another video. Before I touch upon the premise of today's video, which as I've mentioned is imposter syndrome as a photographer, I want to touch upon one of my biggest bugbears, which is trying to predict the weather, knowing where to go and whether the conditions will stay true to what the forecast told you in the first place. And when I looked, today's forecast, when I checked it, suggested this, fog and mist. That's why when I saw it, I said to myself, Neil, you've got to get yourself to a hillside. You've got to get yourself to a viewpoint. And here we are. The sun is up in the right-hand corner. I think it's slowly burned through this fog that we've got. Hopefully give us a little bit more detail to shoot in the distance. But we've got beautiful atmospheric shots to work with. At the moment, these type of scenes, this type of shot, I don't get this too often, so I've got to make the most of it. So before I move on to my next location, a location that will actually be familiar to you if you watched last week's video, but before I move on, I think it's time to talk about the premise of today's video, imposter syndrome as a photographer. It's great for me when I'm going around, when I'm touring, going out with my camera around my local spots around Kent. But sometimes I feel if I go further afield, like when I went to Cornwall last year, you're kind of stepping onto the toes, stepping into someone else's territory, another photographer's territory. You think to yourself, oh, got to make sure, you feel like you go and judge yourself. Am I good enough to go a bit further afield as a photographer? Step into someone else's territory, almost somewhere where they know well, they know where the compositions are, and they know what looks a good composition or not. And you're kind of going out there and you're almost seeing if you can find a shot that's a little bit different. And you're trying to reinvent the wheel when it doesn't need to be reinvented in some way. And of course that's rubbish, because there's always, you can go out anywhere. I can go out to my local spots and I still find new compositions, new images well worth taking. But it's when I kind of go to a new location and I think to myself, or a new area that I've never been before. I've come across other photographers as well, and I'm like, do I really deserve to stand alongside you with my tripod, with my camera? Am I good enough to call myself a photographer and stand toe to toe with you guys? Of course, deep down, it's all in my own head. It's kind of all part of the anxiety that I sometimes suffer. But yeah, it's just sometimes one thing that I think about, and I've come out somewhere new today, partly for a reason for, as I'll explain in a minute. But at the same time, I've come out here today and I'm like, ooh, can't get this wrong. Do you not want to share these images? And someone think, Jesus, that's my local spot, and you butchered it. Hey, I told you. Had you watched the end of last week's video, when I went and found that wild garlic in Sussex, you'll notice I started that segment from up here on this foggy hillside. I decided that making the journey down into Sussex, making the long journey down here, I thought I can't just come down here for one thing, for one couple of hours, and that be it. So I decided to come down here for an entire day trip, record this second video. And it was this spot here at the top of Wolstonbury Hill. Hopefully I've not butchered that name. I'm always terrified of butchering local names. But we're at the top of Wolstonbury Hill. You can just see the peak over behind me. Hopefully I'm not blocking it. But all around here, as you can see, we've got all these little mounds around us, which has a brilliant foreground element that I thought of when I was scouting this area, where to come in the first place. There are thousands of anthills thousands of years old. So I thought this particular spot, not here where I'm sitting now necessarily, I thought this particular hill, this viewpoint, would be a great place to come back. I was hoping for a little bit less fog. I was hoping for more views, more distant landscapes, but that's not the case. I did bring the 100 to 400 with me, but no chance of that today, I don't think. Not with it like this. But I suppose to expand more on what I was saying about imposter syndrome when I was back in the car, you see, the main reason it's on my mind isn't just because I've come out here to Sussex today, to the South Downs, but in September time, I'm planning on a brief, quick drive up to the Peak District, I should say. And that is the type of place where I really do consider to be stepping into the realms of the amazing photographers that I myself have learnt from. Your Nigel Danson, your James Popsis, Thomas Heatons. And I guess in some ways, I've got to ask myself, do I deserve, am I a good enough photographer to go up there and kind of shoot the same compositions, try and get the same compositions that they're able to get? Well, I'm probably not going to be able to get the same type of shots that they're able to get. They are amazing photographers, but damn right, got every right to go up there. There's nothing stopping us. It's all up here in our heads. But I do wonder sometimes, am I good enough to stand toe to toe? And I suppose the only way I'll ever know, the only way I'll ever find out is if I actually go up there. If I actually ever go up there and find out. Now, for this next shot that we're looking for, the joys of going here somewhere new, and you see the compositions that people have already shot, like I've already discussed. There's one particular composition. It is a very, very simple lone tree by the side of a little pond. And I'm walking down in this direction now. I'm walking down this hill with the hope of finding said pond. I might even be walking in the wrong direction. I hope not. I really do hope not. But this is the other thing. When you're new to a location, you see all these spots on social media and you think, I'd love to go there, I'd love to shoot that. You actually got to try and find it. That's the trick. You've actually got to try and find it first. So that's what I'm going to go and do, and see if I can find this pond. And I'll see you in just a second. Oh man, I've got lucky. I've found her and she's as beautiful as she looks when you see images of this scene on social media. Rivers are just there's a little bit too much wind, unfortunately. We've got too many ripples in the water to get a perfect reflection of the tree in the water as well. Got another tree just over on the right-hand side. Might have to clone that out or think about how I can remove that from the scene and just focus on this one in the background. We've got a couple of little sheepies. We know how much I love the sheepies. We've got sheepies over in the background, a proper countryside, proper English countryside scene. I was walking along as I approached it, and I was looking out over the countryside, over the rolling hills in the background, and I thought, why has it got to be foggy? Because there's some lovely crisscrossing of the hills. And it's just I've got here now that the fog's just lifted a little bit. We've just got that little hazy pattern. We've got some lovely hazy shots of the hills in the background. So it's almost just heard me. It's heard my complaints. The weather, you need to just improve just a little bit. I don't want perfect, I don't want blue skies, I don't want endless blue skies. I just want a little bit of an improvement. But this is a composition that's been captured many a time, I'm sure, in the region. It's now my job to see if I can do just as well. Water's a little bit murky. I've got my ND filters with me. I always carry my ND filters with me, just in case. I've got sheepies in the background, got little bar lambs in the background, thinking, what on earth is he saying? He's chatting rubbish, we all know it. But I've got my ND filters, I've got my tripod. I have to set the tripod up, just get milky smooth water. There you go. You know how much I love my milky smooth water, but really smooth out the water and just see what that does to the reflection. It's going to be about trial and error, and hopefully now, right now, I'll be able to share something with you that does this scene justice. So to end this video, I've travelled the 20 miles from where I've been shooting today, battled rush hour to come down to one of my favourite parts of the English coast. I don't get down here too often with it being in Sussex, but if I spin you around, you'll see what I mean. Got the Seven Sisters cliffs, the White Cliffs. We've got 2 Coast Guard cottages acting as a foreground, and then we've got the high tide in the background. I can't think of a more picturesque, a more postcard type setting. The original plan was to shoot during sunset, but as you can see, the rain has come. It's turned really miserable. The weather really hasn't played ball with me today, but I'm not leaving here without a couple of shots of this beautiful scene. So what I'll do is I'll crack on, get the images, put them up on screen in just a minute. But for now, this is where I'm going to leave you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments below. And if you want to subscribe, you can do. It's completely up to you, of course. But for now, you take care. I'll see you on the next one. And it's bye from me.